A few months later, after the Pirates Band of Misfits, Sony Pictures Animation released the start of what is considered to be their most well-known franchise to date with Hotel Transylvania. It's about Count Dracula, who instead of being an evil monster, is actually a loving family man as he has raised his daughter Mavis away from humans after they killed his wife Martha. He also has a giant castle-like hotel called Hotel Transylvania built so that his fellow monsters, such as Frankenstein, Wayne the Werewolf, Murray the Mummy and Griffin the Invisible Man, can enjoy life without human persecution. And this year, they have come to celebrate the 118th birthday of Mavis, who is anxious to go out and explore the world beyond the hotel, despite Dracula's insistence that it isn't safe because humans might harm her. Soon though, a human named Jonathan ends up finding the hotel and Dracula, desperate to avoid the human being seen, disguises him as a monster and pretty soon, Mavis and Jonathan end up falling in love, which worries Dracula even more. The film was originally conceived by comedy writer Todd Durham and based on a book he wrote called Transylvania Traveler. After developing a comprehensive franchise Bible, Durham independently pitched the project to Columbia Pictures. The concept was ultimately set up at Sony Pictures Animation, where Durham became the first of several screenwriters to work on the project. The film's development passed through 6 different directors over several years. These include Anthony Stacchi, David Feiss, Jill Colton, Chris Jenkins, and Todd Wilderman. It wasn't until February of 2011 that they finally chose the director, and it was none other than Genndy Tartakovsky, who is best known for creating a few famous Cartoon Network shows, including Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, and Symbiotic Titan, and therefore, Hotel Transylvania would become his debut to directing an animated movie. Before I go on, I should mention that Genndy pitched an adult animated movie to SPA that was initially approved, but a change in management forced him to shelve the idea that we'll circle back to later in a future video. In November 2011, Miley Cyrus was announced as the voice of Mavis. However, she was removed from the film a few months later, February 2012, and it isn't until 7 years later where we learn that Cyrus revealed that her dismissal stemmed from a controversial incident involving her buying and licking her boyfriend, Liam Hemsworth, a cake that's the size of something that I feel wouldn't be deemed appropriate to share with the audience.
Good night, everybody!
Anyway, after Cyrus was fired, Selena Gomez would end up taking over as Mavis. Most of the film's cast is composed of actors who are best known for starring in Happy Madison films, like Adam Sandler, Kevin James, Steve Buscemi, David Spade, and Jon Lovitz. The character that went through the most changes was Johnny. He was at first supposed to be the descendant of Dracula's famous enemy, Abraham Van Helsing, a plot point which wouldn't be used until the 3rd movie. Other changes Johnny went through included him being a paranormal investigator named Gerald, or a worker at the hotel named Simon, and would be related to Dracula's human servant Reinfield. Outside of Johnny, Mavis was supposed to have a shape-shifting cat companion named Shadow. Going back to Tartakovsky, as a child, he disliked traditional horror films and instead became familiar with iconic monsters through comedic works such as Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein and Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. For the film's animation, Genndy reimagined the visual approach to emphasize the energy, organic movement, and exaggerated style of traditional 2D animation, particularly drawing inspiration from the work of Tex Avery. Genndy explained, "I took all the aesthetics I like from 2D and applied them here. I don't want to do animation to mimic reality. I want to push reality." His creative process involved drawing directly over CG character models to achieve more extreme, expressive poses, with the goal of bringing a 2D drawing sensibility into the CG world and pushing character expressions beyond conventional realism. Character animator Bill Haller noted that roughly 20% of the effort went into tweaking the rig to more of a hand-drawn pose when crafting many of the film's shots. Visual effects supervisor Dan Kramer explained that because many of the film's assets had been created under previous directors, the team was initially reluctant to push the character animation off-model. However, he noted that once Genndy began drawing over the characters, the approach proved liberating for the animators and ultimately shifted his own perspective toward a looser, more expressive style. For advertising, McDonald's released a toy set, with some of them being novelty keychains. Hotel Transylvania had a premiere on September 8, 2012, at the Toronto International Film Festival before getting a wider release 20 days later on September 28. When it was released, it received mixed reviews from critics and audiences, with a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. Editor of IGN, Jeff Chapman, gave the film a 9 out of 10 and said, "This is a fun film, full of quirky gags and lovable characters. There are a few songs that smack a bit like soundtrack marketing for the kids, and the story is of course fairly predictable, but this movie is about enjoying a fun journey with great characters. It's a romp that kids and families will all enjoy. Hotel Transylvania is definitely somewhere you'll want to check in." For the box office, though, it managed to do better. It earned $148.3 million in North America and $210.1 million in other countries, for a worldwide total of $358.4 million against its budget of $85 million, though a source at Daily Hollywood said that the budget was $104 million, but the film turned a hefty profit either way. Oh, and just to tell you, on October 26, 2012, Regal Entertainment Group Cinemas exclusively released a traditionally animated short film based on the movie called Good Night, Mr. Foot, which was also directed and animated by Tartakovsky, to appear alongside the movie. The film was nominated for a bunch of awards, like a few Annies, including one for Best Animated Feature, a Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Feature Film, and a Visual Effects Society Award for Outstanding Animation in an Animated Feature Motion Picture. It did, however, win a Kids' Choice Award for Favorite Voice from an Animated Movie for Adam Sandler as Dracula. The movie was also adapted into a video game for Nintendo DS and Nintendo 3DS. Both were developed by WayForward Games. A few months later, Hotel Transylvania was released on Blu-ray and DVD on January 29, 2013, and one of the Blu-ray features was the Good Night, Mr. Foot short. A few years later, a TV show based on the movie called Hotel Transylvania the Series, which is sort of a non-canon prequel that stars Mavis and some of her monster friends getting into shenanigans around the hotel, ran on Disney Channel from summer 2017 to fall 2020. Another cartoon show, this one titled Motel Transylvania, which is about Dracula and Mavis branching out Hotel Transylvania by opening a motel version of the place, is planned to debut on Netflix sometime next year in 2027. Getting into what I thought about the movie, I liked it and consider it to be better than all of the sequels. I guess this is because the first installment had more memorable and enjoyable stuff in it. I also liked the movie's message about how you need to let your children grow up, and the anti-prejudice themes were decently handled, though I kind of wish Quasimodo was an antagonist that was more relevant to the plot. Hotel Transylvania is what you get when you take the concept of famous monsters and add in a down-to-earth theme that makes you feel for them, and it's this concept that most people enjoy about the movie and what makes it one of SPA's most well-liked films. Several months later, Sony Pictures Animation finally released their first theatrical sequel to their first live-action/animation hybrid film with The Smurfs 2. Sometime after the first movie, the Smurfs plan a surprise birthday for Smurfette, but she begins to feel like no one remembered and has lately began feeling insecure about not being an actual Smurf since she was created by Gargamel. Soon, though, she is taken back to present times by Gargamel's new creations, the Naughties, who convince her to come back to Gargamel. When the other Smurfs find out about this, Papa, Clumsy, Grouchy, and fellow Smurf Vanity head back to the present themselves and get the help of Patrick, Grace, their infant son Blue, and Patrick's eccentric stepfather Victor Doyle to get Smurfette back. On August 9, 2011, Sony Pictures Animation officially announced a sequel, initially scheduled for release on August 2, 2013. The date was later moved up to July 31st of the same year, exactly 2 years and 2 days after the first film premiered. Director Raja Gosnell and producer Jordan Kerner returned to continue their roles on the project, while Katy Perry confirmed during the 2012 Kids' Choice Awards that she would once again voice Smurfette. Development on the sequel had already begun in early 2011, with writers J. David Stem, David N. Weiss, Jay Skerrick, and David Ron attached. By early August of that year, the first draft of the script had been completed. On April 26, 2012, Sony announced that the film had officially entered production, with principal filming taking place in Paris, although some scenes were actually filmed in the Canadian city of Montreal, Quebec. The movie also marked the final performance of Jonathan Winters, who had previously voiced Grandpa Smurf in the 1980s television series and Papa Smurf in the first film. Winters passed away before the sequel's release, and the film was dedicated to his memory.
Miss Doolittle, Little Blue, Papa Victor. Goodbye, Winslow family.
Bye, Papa.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Toodles.
On July 11, 2013, it was revealed that Sofia Vergara, who played Patrick's boss Odile from the first movie, won't be in the movie. Director Raja Gosnell explained that although she traveled to Paris and filmed a brief cameo, her scene was cut in order to maintain narrative clarity. He described the decision as unfortunate but emphasized that she would always remain part of the Smurfy family. Several sequences for the production were shot at the Site du Cinema Studio complex in Saint-Denis, France. The film soundtrack was released on July 23, 2013 and featured an original track by Britney Spears titled Ooh La La, which plays over the end credits. When the movie was released, it received largely negative reviews, similar to the first installment. On Rotten Tomatoes, it holds a 14% approval rating. Justin Lowe of The Hollywood Reporter said, "Beyond a few chuckle-worthy one-liners and some amusing visual comedy, there's not much to engage adults, although the wee ones should be distracted enough." For the box office, it grossed $71,017,784 in North America and $276,527,576 in other countries, thus receiving a worldwide total of $347,545,360. Despite getting rather decent earnings, it was considered a box office bomb. The movie was also nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Prequel, Remake, Ripoff, or Sequel. A video game adaptation of the film was released by Ubisoft on July 23 at the same time as the soundtrack and the versions, which were an action-adventure platformer for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii, and Wii U, were developed by WayForward Technologies, while the Nintendo DS version took the form of an interactive storybook paired with a collection of minigames and handled by Ubisoft Osaka. The Smurfs 2 was released on DVD, Blu-ray, and Blu-ray 3D on December 3 a few months later. The Blu-ray and 3D combo editions also featured the hand-drawn and computer-animated short film The Smurfs: The Legend of Smurfy Hollow, based on The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. The movie later arrived on Ultra HD Blu-ray on March 1, 2016. Meanwhile, development on a third installment had begun much earlier. By May 2012, only weeks after The Smurfs 2 was announced, Sony Pictures Animation and Columbia Pictures were already working on a script for The Smurfs 3, with Carrie Kirkpatrick and Chris Poche attached as writers. The film was originally targeted for a summer 2015 release, but in March 2014, Sony scrapped those plans and chose instead to reboot the franchise, which we'll get to later. As for my thoughts on the movie, I consider it inferior to the first, mostly because of the amount of drama regarding Smurfette thinking no one remembered her birthday and Patrick's frustrations with Victor. The Smurfs 2 is an example of how a sequel, while interesting in concept, isn't always needed or at best, well handled as its predecessor. Almost 2 months later, Sony Pictures Animation released another sequel in theaters, this time from one of their fully animated films with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. Picking up where the first film left off, Flint ends up meeting his role model, famed scientist Chester V, who has the inhabitants of Swallow Falls relocated to California while he and his subordinates clean the island up from the damage done by the food storm in the first movie, and hires Flint as a scientist for his company, Live Corporation. Soon, though, it's revealed that he's actually after Flint's food machine, and when some of his employees can't find it, he sends Flint to do so by claiming that the food has become cruel monsters. But when Flint alongside his friends go back to Swallow Falls, they find out that his invention has turned the island into a jungle that houses food-based animals and other harmless living food. The sequel was first announced on April 12, 2010, when IO9 reported that the original film's directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, would not return to helm the follow-up. By December 2011, it was revealed that Cody Cameron, a story artist on the first film, and Chris Pern, who served as head of story, would direct the sequel, while Lord and Miller would remain involved as executive producers. The screenplay was written by John Francis Daley, Jonathan Goldstein, and Erica Rivenoja, based on an original story concept rather than Pickles to Pittsburgh, the sequel to the original book, and was also written by the same author, Judy Barrett. In February 2012, the film was announced under the working title Cloudy 2: Revenge of the Leftovers, though it was later renamed Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2. As a side note, echoing a point mentioned in part 1 of my SPA animated history, a previously scrapped idea from the first film, in which Flint chooses not to work for a scientist idol named Vance LaFleur after discovering that he is corrupt, was ultimately repurposed and incorporated into the sequel story. For the voice cast, Mr. T decided not to come back to be the voice of Earl, so he was replaced by Brooklyn Nine-Nine actor Terry Crews. Also, Will Forte, the voice of minor character Joe Town in the first movie, was brought back to voice Chester V.
Oh, no problem. I've got what I want.
For advertisement, Subway had a set of 6 reusable bags as a tie-in with the film's theatrical release, while Carl's Jr. and Hardee's had a set of 4 toys as a tie-in with the film's Blu-ray and DVD release. The film's score, composed by Mark Mothersbaugh, introduced a song sung by Cody Simpson called La Da Dee, which came from his album Surfer's Paradise, which plays over the end credits. He also appeared in a music video incorporating footage from the movie. Paul McCartney's 2013 single New was likewise featured in the film. Originally slated for a December 20, 2013 release, the film's date shifted multiple times, first to February 7, 2014, before ultimately landing on September 27, 2013. Upon release, it received generally positive reviews. It holds a 71% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and Michael Rechtschaffen of The Hollywood Reporter praised it, saying that, "It's not as delightfully breezy as the original, but still an engaging sequel buoyed by its energetic voice cast and abundance of footamals." At the box office, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 grossed $119.8 million domestically and $154.5 million internationally, for a worldwide total of $274.3 million. The film also earned several nominations, including a Kids' Choice Award for Favorite Animated Movie, a Satellite Award for Best Motion Picture, a Visual Effects Society Award for Outstanding Animation in an Animated Feature Motion Picture, and a British Academy Children's Award for the BAFTA Kids Vote. A video game tie-in, published by Game Mill Entertainment, launched on September 24, 2013 for the Nintendo DS and Nintendo 3DS, with gameplay reminiscent of Fruit Ninja. PlayFirst also released a free mobile game, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 Footamal Frenzy, for iOS and Android, though it was removed from the App Store in 2015. Another free app, Footamal Funamal, arrived on August 20, 2013 via Sony Pictures Home Entertainment. A few months later, the film was released on DVD and Blu-ray on January 28, 2014, accompanied by 4 animated shorts: Supermanny, Earl Scouts, Steve's First Bath, and Attack of the 50-Foot Gummy Bear. All of these shorts were directed by David Feiss and blended CGI wraparound segments with hand-drawn animation by 6 Point Harness. Shortly after the sequel's theatrical debut, Cody Cameron commented that while a third installment was not guaranteed, the expanded world and characters introduced in the second film left room for further stories. In September 2023, Phil Lord revealed that a script for a third film, titled Planet of the Grapes, had been completed prior to the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, but plans for a third movie were very most likely scrapped as no such film came out as of this writing. As for my thoughts on the film, I thought it was pretty decent and I prefer this compared to the first movie. I remember seeing it just some time after me and my mother came back from a retreat at church camp at the ending of September 2013. I like the message of appreciating your friends, and I also enjoy the footamals, though the large amount of food puns did get a little old after some time, and I thought Chester V was a pretty good villain. Way better than the mayor from the first movie. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 is a sequel that honestly anybody could take or leave, especially since the first movie was pretty alright in of itself, but it also shows what could happen if an alright movie was expanded on and had its low points for every high points, but I guess that happens for sequels in general.